Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Another episode of Led by Life. We're your hosts. I'm Rafaela, and this is Hannah. And today we're going to mix things up a little bit because we have made it to Gene Key 50, but it's been a little unknown to us. I would say that's how I would describe it, a little unknown. So we're going to do something to kind of share a little bit more about ourselves and talk about what brought us together, where we're at, this journey we've been on, give you guys a little background of like how we came together. If we haven't already spoken about that enough, but if you're new here, great place to start. So Hannah and I are both manifestors in human design. If you're human design nerds, then you'll know everything that we're talking about. And if you don't, it might go over your head, but I encourage you to grab your chart, learn, see where you're at. And we started this podcast. So we wanted to talk about our experience. We wanted to journey through the gene keys from one all the way to 64. And it has been a trek. We're going on like 3 years of recording now. And it's been such a blessing. So we'll get into like our human design a bit and kind of just like the overarching um identifiers of them and tell you like what brought us together, why we're here, where we're at, especially right now as we're in the middle of 2026, inching just closer and closer to 2027. And I'm gonna let Hannah share with us her thoughts and insights about like the new paradigm because I know that you have some like juicy things about that to share. So, yeah, this is where we're at today. Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah.
It's been it's been a ride, but it's been so beautiful. You were saying in a voice message to me the other day how grateful you were for our friendship and also the rhythm that we've kind of established where because it's been a balance of wanting to show up and do this thing,
Hmm.
create this kind of body of work or episodes going through the
Yeah.
gene keys, but it's also been but a balance of also honoring our own energy. And I think that we've really gone through a journey and we've been deconditioning as we go,
Mm.
which, they talk a lot about in human design, the deconditioning process. So essentially the notion that when we come into this world, we're authentically ourselves, but then throughout life we pick up this conditioning and we become the not self, or we become these aspects of ourselves that aren't really true to us because of societal conditioning and programming and things that we pick up and life experiences that I suppose wound us. And then the journey of human design is to get back to our authentic selves through deconditioning and to get back to the way that we would authentically operate had we not been through all of that conditioning. And so I feel like we've been on this journey together because we both kind of discovered, well, we both actually connected not long after we discovered human design. So we were relatively early into our journeys. I think you had found out about it a little bit sooner than I had. And it's been this deep dive, and we've been nerding out on it ever since. And we met through a circuitry workshop. So we were both working with a coach separately, a human design coach who is also a manifester. And we both really resonated with her teachings. And then she was running a workshop on circuitry, which is kind of an advanced level of human design where it goes into all the different channels and the circuits. And yeah, it's a lot deeper than most people would ever really go, I would say, with human
Hmm.
design. Most people probably find out about their energy type, which for us is the manifestor. There's also projectors, reflectors, generators, manifesting generators. People might find out about their profiles. I'm a 2-5, Rafa is a 2-4. So we've kind of bonded over that as well because there's a lot of similarities with the conscious second line. And perhaps people might find out about their incarnation cross.
Hmm.
And um, for you, it's the cross of consciousness,
Yep.
right angle cross of consciousness.
Hmm.
So this is the fifth gate, the 35th gate, the 63 and the 64.
You know it, girl.
Right order.
Yeah, that was in the right order. I was like, damn, Hannah.
I have an obsession with incarnation classes.
I love
I
it.
actually think it's probably one of the most important aspects to explore in human design is your incarnation cross, because that's really your life purpose, or your life, the theme of your life, why we came here. And so for me, there's a lot based around identity, because all four of my gates of my incarnation cross are in the identity center. So I'm a right angle cross of the vessel of love, 46, 25, 15, and 10. And so all of these gates are very concentrated in like the heart of my identity. So that's kind of been a big part of my journey. But yeah, these are kind of some of the main aspects, but then a completely different, no, not a different, a deeper level that you can go into is the circuitry.
Mhm,
And so Raf and I did this workshop together, and then we started to realize and piece together that we had a lot of connections. So
mhm,
there are a lot of channels that we had that meet up. I think especially what really clicked for me with wanting to start a podcast with you was the connection from the head to the throat. So
mm. Did you know
this,
that when I had asked, like, because we
yeah.
were in a class one night and
Mm,
I was sharing, I was essentially informing, I was using my strategy, right?
yeah.
Um, I was using my strategy in saying that I really want to start a podcast and maybe it's going to be about the gene keys and like each one, or I was just kind of saying like something around what we were exploring in some capacity, but didn't really know how or where to even start. And then Hannah sent me a voice note like not long after that. And you know what's so crazy now that I'm like saying this story out loud? So another layer to human design, which I really love, is environment. I really love the variable of environment, and mine is kitchens. And I've kind of been experimenting a little bit more recently with kitchens and just noticing how I feel. And I have a question. I don't want to like forget it, but I'm just going to say it so that we can go back to it of like
Mhm.
what it means, or maybe of the transference that happens and like when you go
Mhm.
from one spectrum to the other in the variables. I want to ask you something because I'm noticing, but nonetheless, I was in the kitchen when I decided to work with Nikki. I was in the kitchen,
Oh.
um and
And
sometimes
when you got the message from me, were
and when
you
I
in the
got the
kitchen?
message from you, I was
Oh.
in the kitchen. Yeah. Um, and it's so ironic to me because I'm one that actually has always loved to be in a kitchen. Like as a kid, I would sit on the counters and like watch my mom cooking. But I was not going to be the one cooking in the kitchen. I barely even wanted to help or clean up in the kitchen. And now like life has changed and I'm so much more in the kitchen. And I have found like a peace and an ability to like really relax my mind there. So it's been quite beautiful. But yeah, I was in the kitchen when I was listening to that. Just just so you know.
Well, for me, it connected. I saw that as an invitation, right? And this is another
Mm,
really aspect of human design is the projected energy. And so I'm just kind of getting goosebumps thinking about it. Like all of my channels in human design are projected. So in some way, that means that that energy wants to be invited out. Now, I really struggled with the notion like I'm a manifester, but I have all these projected channels. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean like I am sort of a projector, but I'm like a manifester? If you split your chart into two, if you separate them out, the design and the personality sides, which when you look at a human design chart, you'll see on one side you've got the personality, on the right side, on the left side, you've got your design. And so these are like the conscious and the unconscious aspects of ourselves, or the gates that we have defined. If you separate mine out, on one side I'm a mental projector, and on the other side I'm a self-projected projector. But when they overlap, I have two gates that meet and make a channel, which is also a projected channel, the channel of initiation. But that connection then kind of lights up this manifestor chart. So for me, I spent so long feeling like, well, who am I? Because I feel like I can't fully resonate with the manifestor, but I also don't fully resonate with the projector. And what I've come to learn is that you are the sum of all of the parts. You know, you're not the individual parts. Yes, we can look at a specific gate and we can resonate with it and we can see how that energy plays out in our lives. But it's not until you put it all together that
Mhm.
you get this full picture of who we are and our authentic expression, to kind of go back to the start, what we were talking about with conditioning and deconditioning. And so I suppose part of my deconditioning process has been learning to embrace my manifestor energy and not feel like I have to always be asking for permission or waiting for things to happen, waiting for the invitation. But to go back to what I was saying, I saw Rafa sharing that, expressing that she wanted to start a podcast. I took that as an invitation because I had noticed, I had been slowly noticing as we were going through the workshop, okay, I've got the 64 and the 47. And then Ralph has got the 56 and the 11. And this is actually connects up to be part of a circuit, and it's part of collective energy. And it's so the collective circuitry wants to be shared. It's about sharing with the collective. And so this is where I was kind of making this connection. Okay. And at the same time, I'm questioning, okay, so I'm like a mental projector on this side. I have these like thoughts and this constant stream of information, inspiration, ideas, concepts, conceptualization going on. But how does this get communicated out? Because I have a wide split there. So that's where I kind of made that connection. And I was like, what if we did this together? And then I think I invited you. I said, let's do it. Let's start a podcast, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Like I just met you, really.
Yeah, you're right. We had just met.
And another thing is, you said we were catching up in the evenings. It was 7 a.m. in the morning for me because we're on the other side of the world. So it's so funny that, like, it's so interesting how it's all come about. And I think this is very new paradigm as well, is that there's not those boundaries and those borders that there used to be to create things
Mhm.
and to collaborate with others that there used to be. There's no way that this would have been possible. Perhaps even, I don't know, well, like 10 years ago, probably not.
Yeah.
Um, but it's only really been just in the last short period that things like this have become easy and accessible
Hmm.
to create. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I was just thinking, even as you were speaking, like, and this happens, and maybe the listeners can tune into it, maybe they can feel it or they can pick up on it. But for myself, I know that once we like drop in, it just happens because not only do we have that connection, but we also have the 4818, which is the well and the enthusiasm. And
Yeah.
so I have the 48 and Hannah has the 18, and I sense that like it's all just like coming together. Like everything that we're talking about is like the deep and the discovery and the mysticism and just like the magic that is like available here in life, and seeing it through lens of the gene keys and of human design. And so like we just kind of bring these parts together to share. And it kind of, when you were speaking, I was like, this happens every time. Like, and it just feels so connected, and like the energy is just kind of like going.
Mm,
And I sense that I would could imagine that a lot of our relationships moving forward, maybe in the new paradigm, could be like this,
mm,
where there is so much more of of an energy match to like
yeah.
exchange gifts and
Mm,
pick up on where people are like really strong, where others may not lack in the sense of that they don't have, but they're just not as gifted in that part, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? Um, and that how that can make for different types of partnership and collaborations and relationships, because with you and I sense that like these things just kind of click on when we get together.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels very effortless.
Mhm.
And that's how our whole friendship has felt for me. I think initially, probably for me, because I felt very like burned and hurt in friendships and relationships in the past, that there was perhaps a little bit of a lack of trust. And so perhaps initially it took me a little bit of time to warm up and realize, like, oh, this is a safe space. Like, this is a really safe person that I can just share whatever, be whatever, cancel at the last minute and not be judged, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this has become a really safe space for me, and that's been really healing because I haven't had a lot of other friendships or spaces where I've been able to witness that. I think in on reflection I can perhaps see that maybe my energy was quite confronting or challenging for other people, because maybe it's the manifestor energy, it is, they say that it's repelling, but I think also the initiation, that energy of initiation, I think a lot of people aren't able to meet me there, haven't been able to meet me there, like this kind of you know depth, this emotional depth, this like spirit, like wanting to go deeper. Like, I
Mhm.
also have a Scorpio moon, like I have to go
Ooh.
deep. I can't do like the surface level. I find that really like, I mean, I can, but it's not nourishing to me, like.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I really value about our friendship, is I feel like we can go deep, but we can also just talk about like hairstyles or whatever.
Yeah.
You
Which
know?
today we had the same one.
I know.
We were clearly in sync here in that.
Planners, yeah.
Um, I was gonna say about the safe space in that what I was sharing with you just a little while ago was that human design really is such a process of deconditioning. And that's why I fell in love with it. It was because it was challenging all of these ways at a moment in my life where my life was completely changed. And I wanted us to talk a little bit about like what was the thing that pulled us in. Um,
Mm,
and and so that was so that's this whole deconditioning process, right? And to your point about the initiation, I definitely feel that with the energy. And I think that what happens is just it's a little bit too intense for people. And I'm totally okay with that. Like I don't mind by any means. I know that I can be quite abrupt in some aspects, and I know that I can like be really um like fiery and really like when I'm ready and I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna do. Kind of like to what you were saying, the added layer of, for you of having a Scorpio moon. Well, I have all three of my big three signs are fire signs. So not only that, but then I have manifestor energies. So it really feels, and lately I've been feeling this a lot, where I am just like ready to go. And then so I have these bursts and then I like it collapse. Like I'm just like done. I'm tired. I'm like sleeping. Um, but in all of this, right, recognizing that and noticing that it's not something that's too much or too big or just my voice and speaking and the way I interact with the world, this has been a place where you and I have been able to process what we're doing differently. That ultimately is a challenge, but it feels truer. And that I
yeah.
don't, and then not only that, but then recording it live or, recording it and then putting it out on the internet um is a big reason as to why have felt so called to like put this work out there. And it was just so beautiful that you like pulled it. You heard it and you pulled it and we brought it together. Because really this is kind of what I want to do with people in life, right? And um I too have like projected energy, so it has to be called out. And that's why it's helpful that I work for me one-on-one with people because they're coming to me, like asking me, like whatever it is that they're, going through or for or whatever. So that feels really true. Um, but in this sense, and coming together for this, I've always just hoped that like our shared experience of like having this manifestor energy, which is also very rare, um, and
And ego manifestors as well.
yeah.
So the ego manifestor is the most rare of the authorities. It's something it's something like 2%. No, I don't know if I'm got this correct, but it's like a very, 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 very small proportion of manifestors are ego manifestors.
Mhm.
And then manifestors in themselves are like only 8 to 9% of the population. So
Yeah,
there's not many of us out there.
there's not.
Yeah.
And then to have the authority of an ego manifestor is just another um rare aspect of this whole experimentation, which has been fun. And recently I've learned like, oh, it's like I've actually recently been deciphering ego in the terms of how we know it, like in the psychological sense, versus how it, and I told you, and you were saying how like the ego authority doesn't really like align, like that definition of it doesn't really align. Um, so I've really been deciphering for myself of like even what that term and it just means
Mm,
for me, because a lot of this is also language. And when we go through the gene keys, there are these concepts and these terms, and it's a real contemplation of how we interpret that energy or that experience and the words and the language that we use. And having defined throats, it's no surprise to me now at this point that we're sitting here having a conversation about it.
yeah.
Yeah. So what do we have? We've gone through our strategy. We both have the same authority.
Yeah, I have thoughts on that because I think often when you come to human design, you hear about strategy and authority. So it's almost like you got to figure out your strategy and then you got to run it through your authority, right? But I don't think that that's the experience as a manifestor. And let
Mm,
me know if you feel differently about this. I think the authority leads. And the strategy is just what supports the authority, right? Because I've even heard it said somewhere, or I've learned that manifestors don't have to inform. Like the informing is what removes the friction or the resistance or what supports like to get the initiation, whatever you're creating
yeah.
or initiating out there. So for me, it's really been about learning more so about the authority. And then I think the strategy is kind of like the marketing or like who do I need to know or who's going to be able to help me by informing or
Yeah.
get out of my way. Like,
And
this is what I'm doing. Leave me alone.
mhm. And
Yeah.
I definitely feel like that's true. And I wonder if like there's a little nuance between you and I because yours
Yes.
doesn't come directly from the throat, whereas
Yeah.
mine, it's like the informing and the strategy almost happens simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when I said in that moment on in that class, I want to start a podcast. That was me
Mm.
informing and honoring a want and a desire, which
Yeah.
is my
Yeah.
authority. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I play with that from time to time. I'll just be in the car driving and I'll be like, you know what, God, I would really love this, this, and this in this way or whatever. Because for me,
Mm.
it's correct to like lean into my wants and desires. And I've now been experimenting since 2021, end of 2021. And things have happened in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I've started a private practice like I said I've always wanted to do. At the time I came across like an experience within a relationship that I always said I wanted. In my previous relationship, I was actually sitting on the couch with him one day and going through an old journal, and I
Mm.
had made a list of like the things that I want in a relationship or something like that. And it was just a list and I just wrote it. Don't know how long ago. It was like maybe a year before that or two. It was probably like 2 years before that. And I was reading this list and I was like, all of these things have happened. It was
Mm,
just so magical. To then like having different experiences in my career and then moving like cross country, living on my own and just like I don't know, just and then all the like the much smaller things in between all of that that I've
mm,
experienced. It's just been so magical when I um really just embrace this like again it feels like an experiment to me and I love framing that way for people too when I'm working with them like let's just play with this, go out there,
mm,
try it this way a little bit, see what happens, take the data, come back and then like
mm,
see how it felt. So that's kind of been a lot of my approach when playing with like the different aspects, whether it's
yeah.
environment or digestion or um any one of the variables because I feel like the variables are more the places where like you really got to try it on.
Experiment. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm. And
totally.
that's what I was going to ask you about like what does it mean when like you're in a transference of something? Because I'm high sound digestion, but on one other website it says I'm low sound. So lately I've actually been like experimenting with low sound digestion and I'll say that I feel calmer and like more at peace when I'm eating and when I'm
Mm,
digesting or taking in material, doing it in that way versus the
mm.
high sound. And I don't know if that's because like there's a shift happening internally. Like, is that what it is?
I honestly don't know, but
Mm.
I would say that this is where you get to experiment, like what feels the best to you, and also just like what do you want to do? I think that's where you then get to run it all through your authority. Like, and actually it was funny, I asked my husband a question yesterday or the day before. I can't remember what the question was, but I was like, "Oh, what do you really want to do?" Because this is something that I've, you know, started doing for myself is like checking in, well, what do I actually really want to go back to, the ego authority. Um, and he took a moment, he like closed his eyes and he was like, took a deep breath, and he's like, I want to do this. And I was like, oh, look at you, like really checking in, like really honoring what you want to do. And he was like, I learned that from you because that's something that I've been practicing. And so that was a really sweet moment. But he's also a manifester and he has the same connection from the heart to the throat that you have, the channel 45. What is it, 26? No, 21, 2145. And so even though he's an emotional manifester, he has a defined emotional solar plexus connected to the root center. He actually has a split. And so in a way, I think he's kind of a little bit more like an ego manifester at times, even though his emotional wave like is really what he has to kind of listen to. And that's, the emotional solar plexus is the authority for him. He very much operates like an ego manifester at times
Does
because of
it
that.
because it where does it connect to his throat from?
Well, so it doesn't. He has the heart connected to the throat, but because he has a defined solar plexus, he's an emotional manifester. So even
So there's
though
no connection from his solar plexus to his okay, so the
no,
connection is to
so
the
I
heart.
think that's
Okay.
what
Yeah.
then it's if you have so you're an ego manifester if you don't have another motor center defined. So you need what makes you a manifester is having a motor center connected to the throat and having an open sacral.
Hmm.
But if you have another motor center
Okay.
other than what's connected to the throat, that can be the authority,
Mhm.
depending on what it is. Like there's obviously so many different like configurations,
Yeah.
but it's really and I wanted to say earlier, I found witnessing you and witnessing him as well, who have that direct manifestor channel, the manifested 2145, it's been really healing to me. And I've shared this before on the podcast, just witnessing like that true manifestor energy in
Mm.
motion, like and just I'm going to do it. It's so not spontaneous, but like quick. It's very like fast and very direct.
Hmm.
And another thing I wanted to add is that I think I can also be like that, obviously having a manifest aura, but often things do have to go for me. I go through a bit of a journey through my own kind of initiations, and then I have the channel 1/8, which connects the G center to the throat, making me a manifester. But I was thinking, I've been doing a lot of inner child healing recently, and I was thinking back to this experience when I would have been in like the fourth grade, maybe third or fourth grade. And so I was probably like 10,
Hmm.
yeah, young. And I was auditioning for this role in the school play, the lead role. And I just knew going into the audition that I had it. I was like, I've got this. Like, this role is mine. And it was actually a male role. Like, it was written as a male lead, but they ended up having to change it and change some of the words in the script to be female because I got the role.
Oh, wow.
um, and so I was just thinking about like this unconditioned or less conditioned version of myself that just was like, I've got this. It just
Yeah.
believed so much in I just believed so much in myself. And like that's really what I'm working on reclaiming right now is just this audacity almost, this
Mm-hmm.
like and it's not ego. It's not ego in the traditional sense of the word. It's like just I know that this is meant for me
Yeah.
and following that and not doubting yourself or questioning yourself. And I think that that's a really big part of the manifestor journey for a lot of people. And I'd love to hear anyone else's reflections on this if you are a manifestor, but just this small inning, like making ourselves small because we do have this big like aura
Yeah.
um, that is meant to be impactful. But I think throughout our lives, many of us have experienced that smallening, like, or have
Hmm.
made ourselves small.
Hmm.
And so it's almost like reclaiming that bigness. And again, it's not from an egotistical perspective, or it's not out of trying to make ourselves better than other people. I think that that's kind of like the connotation that the word ego has is like an arrogance or um, feeling like you're better than someone else. But for me, that's why I resonate a lot more with like the heart, like it's the
Hmm.
heart centered, like
Yeah.
the the really just I don't even know how to describe it, just like that kind of determination of the heart.
Hmm. Hmm. That's a good
Mm,
one. I love that, the determination of the heart. And it's interesting because today I actually was having, um, I was doing some writing, and I was writing to this time when I was much younger, and I don't know if it was around the same age of what you were just sharing, but it was somewhere in that time frame of like maybe 9, 10, 8, 9, 10, can't really remember, where I was sitting at the dinner table and somebody was just kind of like saying how, oh, Rafa's stories are always so detailed and like, here's another Rafa story. And it's just like, because it can go on, and I can talk a lot. And I have come to realize like that was one of the first moments of conditioning of smallening of, you're just taking up too much space here. And, I don't have any like ill or judgment towards the individuals that were there because, I just think that like I can just see them with compassion. I'm not, I don't blame them or anything like that. Because I was actually also having this thought recently of like, how, I don't know if you've seen it, but on social media there's like this tagline or phrase or whatever about like being Delulu.
yeah.
And I'm just like, why does it have to be that you claiming the things that you want in your life being associated with the delusional? I'm just like, I'm not buying into it. I don't, I'm not with it. Like, claim it, own it, share it, speak it, do it, whatever you got to do. But like, let's not like contort that into being you being Delulu. Like, no, I'm okay. I'm actually being realistic. Like, this is what I want, and this is what's happening.
Right. We've been taught that the
The dream you
realistic
want to
path
create. Yeah,
not what you want. Yeah.
for sure.
Mm.
So that's my tidbit. I'm just like that. But I think
Well,
that
you go
well, I
ahead.
was gonna say, I think that I've gotten to the place now, and you were kind of sharing about this before we started, was like, the shift in the paradigm of people right now really wanting to share themselves and express themselves and have this visibility. And I really think that's coming because for so long we've been quieted. And
Yeah.
the I think because of everything that we've been exploring and playing with, that now I can just very clearly just out loud say, like, you can keep your
Mm.
Delulu thing whatever you want. Like, no, I'm gonna just allow it to be what it really is. Um, and then just like hold like some love and compassion and grace for like the part of me that just at times still will feel like, oh, should I say this, should I do this, or should I allow myself to be seen in this way or express myself in this way. But you're right, like the manifestor energy is big and it's impactful, and all of the women that I have seen that share their visibility and express themselves honestly, boldly, authentically, in what they're all reflecting to me of something I know that's within myself. They're all manifestors. All of them.
Mm.
And most of them are all manifestors. So, yeah, I think we're exactly where we need to be.
Yeah.
What were we going to say?
Well, I was going to say, kind of to that point, that in a way, these moments that have made us small are divine, because as challenging as it has been, and we can look back and say, I wish I had have had the confidence, for me personally, I wish I had have had the confidence through my 20s to follow my own path, to not follow a path that I thought I needed to, and to, I wish even just in the last 5 years that I'd had more confidence to put myself out there and to share my gifts more. But it's all divine, because going through that smallening is then what brings you back to the bigness
Mhm.
in an even bigger way, right? It's almost like you have to learn the opposite in order to really learn the lesson. And I think that any challenges that we go through can be framed in that sense. Like, it doesn't, I'm not denying it's uncomfortable and really difficult, but there's something really beautiful on the other side of this, in the transformation, in the, like, we get to meet ourselves on a deeper level,
Well,
and have so much more compassion and love for ourselves. And then we get to parent our future generations in a way that is more authentic for them.
yeah. Yeah. And
What
I
were you?
I sense that like you and I having that understanding and perspective is also because that is the journey of the gene keys, is
Mm,
that there are frequencies in the entire human experience, and there's going to be a low one and there's going to be a high one, and
mm,
come time after time in every single one. And the premise of all of it is that we must embrace the shadow to get to the gift. And
mm,
so, I feel like going through this journey of the gene keys and this contemplation has really softened my like inner critic. Don't get me wrong,
mm,
I'm still like out here questioning things, and that letting that be the reminder to bring me back to trusting. Um, but nonetheless, it's really just been so affirming to know that like I'm still whole and divine regardless of the things that I aren't so pleasant or that I'm not like the most loving of within
yeah.
myself.
And we're all a part of a bigger plan, right? Like we're all just playing out our own unique roles.
Hmm.
And this is where things like the incarnation cross or the activation sequence in the gene keys can really show us like our own purpose in contributing to like the collective evolution, because like you say, these shadow aspects, it almost becomes less personal when you read it in a chapter of the gene keys and you're like, okay, this is not just me.
Yeah.
There's so many people who, all of us go through this, even if we don't have a certain gene key or gate defined in our charts, we still experience that energy and we see it reflected in our relationships. And so it's all a part of us because we're all part of the whole,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, what was I going to ask? Oh, well, you asked about transference before, so let's just quickly touch on that. I
Hmm.
don't know I don't actually know if the other variables like have transference,
Hmm.
but I know about motivation because I've done a little bit of exploration into that. And I'm kind of like pulling together a few different pieces that were coming to me before. So we were talking about like claiming our desires and, how you have journaled in the past about things that you want unapologetically and you've
Hmm.
manifested that. I've done the same as well. And I think there's a lot of kind of talk in the spiritual space about like not wanting things because if you want it, then you're saying that you don't have it.
Hmm.
But there's a distinction, like there's a different energy from it's almost like the wanting is the claiming
Hmm.
in the aspect in the way that we were talking about it. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. But um I think for me, so my motivation is innocence. And I think when I'm framing like my desires, my heart's desires from that perspective, it's not the variable of perspective, but from that kind of lens of innocence, that's when it's really aligned for me. But the transference of innocence is desire. So when I am like desiring something, but it's almost like to fill a void, or it's almost like I feel like I'm not good enough, I don't have it.
Hmm.
I want it, but I don't have it. Like that is the transference for me because it's almost like the opposite of innocence.
Yeah.
And so again, I think you even said before, like it's all language.
Hmm.
We've got to find our own way of kind of relating to the key words, I think that Ra called them, or key, yeah, keywords, something like that. It, what does it mean to you? Like for me, innocence is, I mean, that could be perceived in so many different ways, but to me, innocence when it comes to motivation is just like kind of no expectation, no attachment to outcome. It's just like I'm just feeling drawn to this thing. I'm feeling excited about this thing. I'm feeling lit up. Like again, you've got to kind of pull in all the different layers of ourselves. Like I have this very strong determination, being this, my main gate is the determination of the self, the 46th gate. So I also have a lot of like drive, a lot of definition in my root center. So you got to kind of pull all these different pieces together when you can't just look at innocence and be like, that's the only thing that kind of motivates me. But it
Hmm.
is that, again, lens of like, for me, detachment, um, just kind of being childlike.
Hmm.
So I would say that the transference is when I am like almost making the desires reflective of my worth. Like I'm wanting it because I feel like it's going to make me feel good
Hmm.
enough or feel
Hmm.
worthy. So that's how it kind of manifests for me. What's your motivation?
It's need.
Need.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I
What is
can't
the
remember what the transference is right now. I mean, I can pull it up, but it's okay. It'll give us something to sit with, and I can go
yeah.
investigate and bring it back for next week's episode. Because now that you described that, and I've known that my motivation is need, but this is what I mean, where it's like an experiment that I love to play with, and so, I'll inform God, and I'll just be like, okay, well, show me what it is that I need today, or however I want to phrase that, right? Or what do I feel like I need in this moment? Or um, I don't know. I'm gonna play with it. I'm gonna go find it. I'm gonna search it because I want to know a little bit more. And I think that that's just like what to me feels like fun. Yeah, it's not like, you know,
Yeah.
pickleball or Barbie dolls, but this is my flavor of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, I'm so happy we did this.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And I
It's
really
good.
hope that this episode kind of like brought you guys into our world a little bit more, got you to understand more of who we are and where our hearts are and what kind of impact we want to make out in the world, which for me personally is it's just the ability for everyone to have the space to create whatever life that they wish of their dreams and desires. Um, and to really go for it and to kind of see the aspects of fear and shadow with light and with love. And I just I want that to spread.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's just wanting people to be who they really are. Just claim that,
Be you,
own
boo.
it.
Wonderful. Well, next time we'll see you guys with the 50th, and then we've got like 14 more with that. Wild, but
Yeah.
here we are. Take care.